Okay, from now on, no cuts. Oh my gosh.
So, we're back. Here we are in Jess's living room. So, I think this time we're gonna talk about, does culture affect personality?
Personality!
Yay!
Woo! So, what do you think? Does culture affect personality?
The short answer for it is yes, it does. I think,
But how?
but but how? In my case, my personality fluctuates based on where I live and then the people around me. When I was little, when I was in Taiwan, in comparison to now, also in a mix of low self-esteem and, a lot of childhood trauma, my personality tends to be like softer, less forward, less direct.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved to the States, that's where everyone's encouraged to be more vocal and be more like, you need to express or else people don't know. So I started to realize my existence started like shrinking.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how. And that wasn't the way I was taught. So I went through some like chapters of being dismissed here and there, getting sick of being dismissed, and then asking myself the questions, how can I avoid those kind of incidents or experience again? And then eventually there was like an explosion in the middle. And I started to like pick myself back up. And I started to be more direct and expressive.
Do you think you would have had that like moment if you stayed in Taiwan? Or is it because of your exposure to this like strong American culture that led you to that aha moment or that change in personality?
I feel like I have a story to share. So, long story short, I got kicked out of the country. I had to find my way back to the country. And, as unwelcoming as that experience was, ironically, I still find it home.
Does it make you want it more?
Oof. Wow. So, but during that time, right, I was like freelancing, mainly based in Taiwan. So I do have to like deal with a lot of clients. They're in the country and more like domestic. And then the moment I went back to the States after that experience, I get comments like, Jess, you express less now. You're less vocal. And, that goes back to the questions, does culture affect personality?
Yeah.
Like, even just within that short amount of time.
Yeah.
So.
They just beat the personality out of you in Asia.
They did. And then so, like.
I'm just kidding, not all Asian countries.
Back in Taiwan, like, I do have a lot of things I want to say. I do have a lot of things I want to express. But I didn't have an outlet for it. Not till, like, to move to the States. There are outlets like that everywhere. Because that's what people were taught to do. Right. It's like, you have to embrace that individualism in society or else you can't survive.
Yeah.
So, but, during those process, you go through when you don't know when to hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah. So, like, I did have a moments like I was so expressive, but almost unfiltered in a bad way. And I had to pull myself back, being like, okay, Jess, you're being an asshole. Like, don't
start
do that.
Caring about people's feelings.
Still don't care, but.
So sad. You care about you guys, though. Wherever I go, it amplifies certain parts of my personality, and I lean into certain bits a bit more. So, like, obviously in Japan, I am a little bit more reserved or more quiet, or I try and present myself as an adult. Whereas,
are you though?
I'm trying really hard.
Okay.
But like I think we were saying before how age is a big thing here, and like you have to act your age. And that's a big thing to, like, show respect or, just how mature you are says a lot about the respect that you get.
What do you think how we should be acting like as 3 years old?
Very logical, very, well, based on where you are in Japan at the moment. More, I think not doing silly shit like this. I think in the eyes of, let's say in Japan, because you have to act a certain way for your age, therefore your personality is tied to that as well.
Yeah.
I get people thinking that I'm younger because my personality is younger. And I think in North America or in Europe, it's very different as well. You're kind of taught to be more individual or like keep the young spirit in you, and you know, it's more encouraged to be more fun and more expressive. Whereas here, as you get older, your personality needs to be a little bit more responsible, I think.
But can I share one of my analogies on that? Like, I think, yes, I agree, like, to that point. But have you realized the adults here, they carry more cutesy stuff versus back in the States, the older you get, you can have your child-like side showing stuff, but people start to reduce down the, you know, they stop hanging a Hello Kitty keychain on their bag.
That's true.
They start to dress more in a mature way.
Yeah.
But personality is like...
Yeah, because you can have like very serious people here that are, you know, they have all these cute little negurumis and like...
Yeah, like everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like part of the culture. So that's like one thing I find quite fun is even though we were taught by different societies to become more adult-like or act to match your age, there are like hints of you still want to stay as a child.
Yeah. I think everyone should have a piece of their child with them. You know, cut off their hair, maybe their finger, I don't know, put it in your pocket.
Pierce, you know, do piercing in weird places. Getting a lot of Disney tattoos on you like me.
Do you think it's different from, let's say, growing up in one sort of cultural environment versus having different cultural influences? Like, how do you think it's different?
You know, it's kind of like what I've experienced from different city to city, culture to culture, how they talk about other cultures, right? One thing I realized being in Japan is, versus being in the States or in New York, you know, like I used to read New York Times like every single day. Now the times got reduced down. And then that's like really quite interesting symptom I have personally. And it has everything to do with the culture or environment I'm in. Like, when I'm physically so close to what's happening or what's, like, being talked about in those topics, I pay closer attention because it feels real. It feels like it is happening in my life versus in Japan when I'm trying to keep up with the news. It's so far away. So you feel, like, less real. Like, you feel like it's just some story.
Like a drama.
Yeah. That has nothing to do with your reality. And it's like, it sounds so oblivious and ignorant, but I think that's what it does to people.
Yeah.
So I feel like goes back to your questions, like that's the difference between, you know, growing up in the same culture and then changing your personality versus, or like multicultural, like in the same space versus you actually physically hopping around
and having
on
to
the
be
map.
that person.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's different from, obviously everyone knows in America it is very individualistic and you should have a strong voice if you want to, you know, get anywhere. It's like the land of the free and all that kind of stuff. And if you work hard, then you can make it to the American dream. And so everyone has this concept of America as being that. But like, you're never going to force yourself to be that person in Japan, for example.
Yeah.
You can't just suddenly just be like, all right, I'm just going to become that like strong, independent, whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, go after capitalism.
Yeah.
And until you move to America and you're like, oh, actually, like, I can be that personality here.
Yeah. So I think it's like, it's very different.
Canadians being polite is actually true, but...
You think so?
There's a saying called, oh, I don't want no Canadian apology. meaning that Canadians always say sorry,
Yeah.
even if they don't really mean it, but it's like part of the culture to, say sorry for like every little thing.
Yeah.
And so I think I heard this from an American person where they're like, or maybe it was a comment somewhere being like, oh, don't give me a Canadian apology. And
That's
people
so
are
funny.
like, what do you mean by that? And they're like, oh, it just means you're just saying sorry without actually feeling sorry.
That's a little bit over here too, right?
Yes, yeah. But I do find a difference. Maybe this isn't really tied to like personality, but just like being in different countries, I can feel people just reacting differently or, in general.
Yeah, and I feel like the personality side is so, or cultural affected personality is so intertwined with one another.
Yeah.
It's not just like based on one individual,
Yeah.
but really like the environment, people you're with.
Yeah.
Even without hopping around countries or cities, like you're already showing different sides based on the friends group you're in, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention you're like physically in a different continent.
And I think people also, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy too. Like if you are in Canada as a Canadian, then you better be fucking polite. Otherwise, you can't be patriotic. You can't be like, oh, identify as a Canadian person, because that's part of being Canadian. Or if you're like German and you're very logical and, that's kind of what you try and be.
Yeah. Because I definitely feel like I'm even when I now draft up emails or responses to people I don't know, I'm way more polite than how I was back in the States. Not saying I was a rude person, but like the way you structure what you're about to say is more, it go through more like thinking layers.
Yeah. And especially in Japan, people pay a lot of attention to your personality, basically.
It's a little bit of a mind fuck for me because, at least in the States, people start encouraging one another to not, especially to Asian Americans, like not automatically being apologetic. Because that's just out of habit. You just keep like, yeah.
Instead of saying sorry.
So I was like in the beginning of practicing not to just constantly say I'm sorry when the environment or the situation is not necessarily, there's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
also legal implication to it as well. If you admit guilt, then you can be sued.
Let's stretch that way, yeah. And then, but over here, it's such a thing. So it's kind of like undoing everything I'm trying to practice.
Yeah, because here, formal apologies are a thing. Like, in companies, if you fuck up, then you get your boss and yourself to go to the office of whoever fucked up and do, like, a formal apology. Like, oh, are you gonna come and apologize?
I haven't gone that far yet. Have you done anything like that? Are you about to get fired, Thea?
Well, actually. No, but I heard for one of the projects at our old company that had to be done.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Naturally, human crave originality. And in order to do that, you need fresh thinkers to join into the community. And then we were kind of being positioned in that bucket. Yeah. But there's like always so hard as third culture adults to find that balance being, I'm not here to be a colonizer or take over or step onto your culture or give shit about your culture, but I'm also here to bring in my perspective as a multicultural person. Where can I find a balance? Out of like keeping your personality or keeping yourself in those like navigating journey.
One of the things that makes an awesome team is having diversity. And that's why there's all these studies that prove that diversity is actually better for business in the end, because everyone's thinking about capitalism. It does actually convert to more profit because you make better decisions when there's more diversity.
But I do realize I can think in more different perspectives of the same subjects in a faster pace compared to people I used to work with or like who stay in the same culture the whole time.
Because you're exposed to more.
Yeah, and it's
Points
not
of views.
exactly. So it's not because I'm wiser or more clever or I read more books. It's pure based on I've lived in different places and I've talked to different people.
And I think it's because our identity is so mishmashed. Like in many countries, there's always like, what does it mean to be X, right? Like people really lean into, at least I find, even in social media when I'm looking at reels of interviews, they're always like, oh, are you born here? And people in Japan are like, yes, I'm pure Japanese. They always want to add that word pure. And so there's like that point of pride about all these characteristics, personality traits, or whatever that are attached to that as well. But when you're mixed, you kind of don't have that attached to, you know, your identity or your culture.
Wouldn't it be beautiful if we just all go back to the age of apes? We're all apes.
We are, but we don't have as much hair, I guess.
So going back... What were you gonna say?
Well, no, apes do silly things, and I don't know if we want to go back to that sort of like...
Do we not do silly things?
Yeah, we do.
We're weird.
I think in the end we are all like
Apes.
instinctually animalistic, and we're just trying to mask it with all these things. Like we've
Because
developed
we are animal.
the frontal cortex, which is controlling all of our impulses.
It's actually a curse.
To control our impulses?
To have a free will.
We don't have free will.
Okay, cool.
But we won't get into that today.
Yeah. I wanted
to my other podcast about...
There's no other podcast. But I do want to bring back the drafting email differently. Because it also has everything to do with the language. When we're speaking a different language, our personality also changes.
Yeah. How does yours change with the languages that you speak?
My friends always like make fun of me. Like those who come visit Japan and then we'll go to a restaurant and then we'll order food. Of course I will order food. And then the moment before that we're like talking, right? Right, like normally. And then I'll turn and then they'll start laughing when I order. Because I started to become a different person when I talked in Japanese.
Who do you become when you speak in Japanese?
I want to say, like, I sounded like a higher pitch, pretentious trophy wife when
I thought you were a pretentious trophy wife.
I'm like...
That's the
aspiring trophy wife. That's
so
what...
Jess, she's looking for a rich husband.
To me, my first language, when I talk in my first language, I get to be the most authentic self.
I agree. There's always like more emotional nuances with English, whereas if I'm speaking Japanese, it's very formal. It's very, like, I don't feel like myself.
Yeah. I just had this talk with my coworker, who's also bilingual, and I was telling him that the reason being how I started my career, so being educated as a designer or as a creative director, I've always functioned my creative brain in English. So I can elaborate my ideas the best in that language. Yeah. And then I also feel like I'm gonna take like Chinese and English as example just because these are the two, like one is my mother tongue, one's my first language. Is like how Chinese is built. It's so poetic, and then it's actually very expressive, right? Like a lot of words they use to describe an expression is actually more detailed and delicate than English. Like I feel like English, relatively speaking, is more like literal. You do have big words that has like more meanings to it, but rarely anyone use those kind of words. Like you're trying to describe how you feel or everything you want to say through like very simple sentence structures, right? That's what makes some of the best novels. Yeah. So
Does
like
that transfer to the personality that?
yeah.
Mm.
So I feel like but at this point I trying to express myself like more consistently through different languages, but that definitely put a certain restrictions on fully what I want to express or want to say or want to communicate
Yeah.
when I switch between languages, because I do believe like, or I feel personally, language is also designed to establish a certain side of personality they want people to carry out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then when I'm presenting as well in Japanese or in English I'm more campaigny, like, come join us for this project. I don't know.
Yeah,
Give us
totally.
your feedback. Where in Japanese it's like, okay, and the next steps we're gonna go with this, and we're gonna build a foundation, and then blah blah, and it's very business-like, and then arigatou gozaimasu. Like it's very cut and dry.
You're also very dry in English.
Okay.
Dry and campy.
Dry and can't.
Dry and campy. Dry and campy. I feel like the description is like if we are in a musical,
Yeah.
you sing without background music, I sing with background music.
Wow, that sounds really boring.
No,
Or
it's
like
good.
you can highlight how awful of a singer I am.
No. That means you're good. You don't need background music to support you.
What you're saying is that there's no like emotional upheaval to support like the.
You said that.
Okay. But I also find it affects how I am in terms of like introversion, extroversion as well. So in Western cultures, I'm definitely way more extroverted because that's expected of your personality, whereas in, and also I think that's more sought after. People who are extroverted in, America, Canada, Western cultures get further, I guess, because people are like, these are the traits that I want to see from a leader or from a colleague or from friends even. Like they need to be interesting and extroverted and social. Whereas in Japan, they really, I think a lot of people are introverted, but that's also kind of more sought after as well, meaning that you're more serious. You take things a little bit more seriously. You're reserved. You're not bothering people.
Yeah, I do feel that a lot. I think naturally, like I said in the beginning, I don't think I'm the most extroverted person, but because of the time I spent in the States, I did realize I have to push myself to be more social and more like proactive in talking to people or connecting with people, because networking is such a thing.
Yes.
But I did realize, like, especially in work setting, in the States, if you continue to just like keep your heads down and do your job only, you're not gonna get far.
Yeah.
That's just the thing. Like, you have to somehow, in some way, you don't have to be the loudest in the room, but you have to make people remember you.
I think that also comes down to, because in America you graded for participation. And so how well you do in school is really based on how much you put yourself out there as well.
Yeah. And then, but I feel like I realize over here, so I have to dial myself back, right? When I come here, I'm like, I'm not here to steal anyone's spotlight, but I realize nobody wants a spotlight. Like they just kind of being very avoidant, because that's the culture here. It's like everyone should just be, you shouldn't stand out. You shouldn't try to like step on other people in any way possible. So nobody is like,
get in line.
taking those proactive actions to be like, but I want to have a say in the room, or but I want my opinions to be heard.
Yeah.
However, I think from my personal observation, it's still a thing in society, right? That's why social media exists. People do want to express themselves. People do want to be heard or seen.
But they don't want their real face to be attached to it. Because if you look at X, formerly Twitter, it's huge in Japan because it's very text-oriented and you can be anonymous. So you can really express yourself via text here.
Yeah.
But if you're talking to someone in person, they're never going to tell you.
Yeah.
You know?
So pros and cons.
There's a lot of cultures where people are like, oh, I'm just being blunt, but no, you're actually just
No,
being
rude.
rude.
Yeah, so I think that's another thing why I think it's so important to shape your personality from like physically being in different places, because then you start to mold your happy medium
Right.
in those like two extremes in one spectrum, and then you want to be like in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think even in Japan though, they do, because everyone is so introverted, when you have that person who is extroverted, they do stand out more and they do get more like recognition and things like that. I think people naturally do gravitate to people who can like guide them.
Yeah,
especially in a room of introverts.
Yeah,
because they don't want to be the one to like do stuff.
Yeah.
They rely on that one person who can, you know, really take them along and tell them what to do essentially. Like, how do you become a leader that supports people rather than just kind of telling them what to do?
Yeah.
Have you ever taken a personality test, and do you think it changes based on what culture you're in?
That's like a hot topic right now. But you know, it's such a struggle for me because usually when I take that test, I'm such a like, I believe in gray area. Yeah. That's why I fail in math when I was in high school, because nothing logical makes sense to me. I'm like, why is it so black and white? There's always a gray. What about the gray? So,
have we planned a trip together yet? I don't think we have.
We have not, but I'm actually not too bad at planning a trip. But I feel like you're probably more specific, because the way I plan a trip is like, I will drop like I bookmark a lot of things. Yeah. And I'll drop like locations where I want to go. Yeah. But then it's fluid. Like, it's not fixed schedule.
Yeah.
It's not like
that too.
Yeah, it's not like a production call sheet.
Yeah. Life throws you many curveballs, so, you know.
Yeah, so you gotta know how to like be flexible. Yeah.
I have a bone to pick about these personality tests. Okay. Because, like what you're saying, similar. Especially the MBTI, there might be a lot of hate comments of this, but it's actually bullshit. Like, seriously, they've done so many studies about how bullshit it is, but people still use it on their dating profiles, on like work. Like, I think there's some companies that will place people on projects based on their MBTI and things like that. I agree it's a fun way to be like, I'm a blah 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 or whatever, but did you know it was created by a magazine editor and her daughter?
No, I didn't.
And the magazine editor was like,
how old is the daughter?
In a way, I guess it's not bad, because it's not saying negative traits, but it's more of like, oh, you're this, therefore you become that. But what's your MBTI?
I have screenshot.
Okay. Every time I take the MBTI test, it changes. I'm
an INFJA. But so far when I say that, people are like, oh, makes sense.
See, look at this. So I just took the test before this episode because I'm like, it changes, every time I do it. So I'm 51% introverted. Like, that's like probably like a one question where I did, something in the middle. Intuitive instead of observant. 58% thinking. Yeah. 51% judging. So I'm so like in the middle. Yeah. For a lot of these things.
You're also very short of yourself.
Very assertive.
Yeah.
But yeah. But this time I got INTJ. The other day I got a ENFP. And then before that I used to get ENTJ a lot.
But do you feel like now you get an I, it's because you're more grown up?
I'm an adult.
You're an adult now.
Yeah. If you guys want a really good personality test that actually is apparently better at measuring, it's called the Big Five. And that goes on a scale of these 5 traits, which is agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism.
Or you know what else? You know what else you can do? Just go to a psychiatrist.
Just get therapy.
Just get therapy. Like, yeah. Stop with this like online bullshit. Just go to therapy.
But they're also fun to,
That's what I'm saying. It's like for you.
On that note, Does
we, like-
culture affect
Yeah, I think
personality?
this is something like, I think we're just merely scratching the surface. It's a
Yeah.
very short episode, but
Personality isn't just culture, it's so many things.
and it's so fluid and like there's no like stop.
Yeah. And
Or,
as
like,
we learned
end
today,
goal. But before we end, can we like open a snack in the box?
oh, yes.
Because
So-
yeah.
So my hometown, I know I said before it was Belleville, Ontario, but I actually grew up in Osaka as a kid. And they have this thing, it's called takoyaki, which is octopus balls. Not like literal genital balls, but they're balls with pieces of octopus in it. This is not the real octopus, but you can see in the photo, the actual photo of the food, and this is a snack that
Nice.
that's supposed to taste like it. So let's see if it actually.
I love takoyaki. Does it smell like?
I'd like to do the honors. That's pretty good.
But does it taste like takoyaki?
No, it does not taste like takoyaki, but it's pretty yummy. So, although it's no competition for, shout out again to Hawkins cheese. We're gonna run out of these soon.
Yeah, we need to really get sponsored. Okay, so my turn. I'm gonna share this potato chips.
Potato chips.
This is how I started forming my own accent. This is a potato chips that's the oyster pancake flavor.
Okay.
So oyster pancake is also one of the more traditional like street food snacks back in Taiwan. So what they do is they mix with like batters and some like greens and oysters, and then eggs, and then they pan fried it, and then they'll add like some sort of sweet sauce
Okay.
around it. So it literally looks like this.
Does it taste like oyster pancakes?
You do it.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Are we?
Yes. Look,
What?
I got a little hole.
Okay. No, you do the honor. You do the honor.
Mm.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
So you think like you taste oysters in it?
I think there's an essence of oyster. Then you got that sweet sauce. It's very fruit forward, sweet backwards.
I just need the camera to capture how little the amount, how sad.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. This one's
Right.
got a lot more in there.
Yeah.
Thirdly.
Okay. So last
Delicious.
stop, we're gonna give you like encouragement.
Fun fact of the day.
Boop, boop. Yeah, can you do it?
All right, folks. Today, fun fact of the day is actually a life lesson, if you will. If 2 wrongs don't make a right, try 3. The end. Thank you. Always make the wrong choice.
That's
3
how you shape your personality.
Hey, if you keep on failing, then you
You're
have a lot of.
succeeding. No.
If you fail successfully. Anyways.
No, but we do, we want to hear what you think. What's your journey?
Yeah, does your culture affect your personality? Do you think your personality has been shaped by different cultures that you've been exposed to? And where do you guys live? Where do y'all live? I'm trying not to say guys.
What? Yeah, because I do say y'all a lot.
Yeah, but it's weird because
I'm not from.
yeah, it sounds very hillbilly when you say y'all.
Yeah, but I realize that's so convenient to say it.
But maybe you can say you all. Where are you all from? But then you have to enunciate the you all.
That's the end of the episode.